Oke, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi washabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Now we are from uh, group 2, the second group. Before we start our presentation, I will introduce our member. The first member is Siti Musfatun Rizqiatun. The second one is Choirunnisa Nur Fitria, Galih Satria, Dinda Putri Ariyani, and the last is me, Aulya, Rahma, Dinda, Siregar. For the first presentation will be present by me, by the title of the analysis, the problem of phonemes production in language acquisition for a 3-year-old child. Miss Dinda, may you share the PowerPoint, please? Excuse me. Okay, I will start the presentation. The title is the problem of phoneme production in language acquisition for a 3-year-old child. Next slide, please. Okay. From the first is research method. In this study, the author used a qualitative method. I use qualitative methods are methods that focus or in the depth of appreciation. Therefore, the use qualitative methods in research can result in more comprehensive study of phenomenon. This approach aims to provide an overview of the fact of children language in language acquisition in children phonemics. Phoneme, the use of language or communication in children is one aspect. The stage of development of children that call not speech, language by children is the greatest human achievement and amazing. Therefore, this used to receive great attention. Language acquisition review intensively for a long time. This qualitative approach aims to provide an overview of the facts of child's language in language acquisition in the context of the child phonemic as it is. This data I was carried out from yesterday observation, like 2 months later, like from 2 children, namely is Elmira Azhar Al-Fatunisa and Eikal Nur Anwar. So the result, next slide, please. So I will introduce explaining about the result that I get from this analyzing. In the research that has been done, the researcher found data in one meeting based on a minute-long video recording. The data obtained by the researcher is the result of conversation between children under 5 with the researcher themselves and those close to the child. Words produced by children are in the form of shortening or delting of tone and voicing as a result of the process of learning. The process of learning language. For the first time, the data below is from the data from the phone. Most of first emission were carried out in the prefix syllabus. So in analysis, I get uh, it, it- mm, uh, in my analysis about the both of children are the same age but have different growth. So uh, they say the same word, but the word is not quite right. But they try to pronounce the correct word. The correct word. This all happened because of their announcement or effort to say the right word. Therefore, Myra keeps repeating one wrong word until it becomes the right word. While Haikal did not want to keep repeating the word because he feel lazy for repeating the word. Uh, also for Myra, she can uh, she can say ibu, but she say bu. Uh, but Haikal, he say uh, coklat di clat, but sometimes he will repeat the same word to get the correct word. Okay, the uh, next slide. We move to conclusion. So, the conclusion from this discussion that has been carried out above, it can be concluded that children act less than 2 years old are more likely, 3 years old are more likely or will eliminate professional syllabus that children age their 3 years. As it is now that is learning a language cannot be done spoke by the children are also easy words that they often hear in everyday. Mm, there are several things that are important in language development, namely change in the cultural and social cultural content of language. They make substantiation of the place on segment with another. In the first child, the child has not yet fully produced good consonant and made alternative consonant. Even though the languages by children use less language, regular language. In the study, the children continue to try pronounce the word correctly. For the second child, the child is quite good at pronouncing syllables and there are three consonants that are considered quite lacking but can compensate. The jet also found a more advanced ability to pronounce a word correctly. Okay, for my presentation, who want to, or maybe until here, my presentation, uh, is there any question about my analyzing or my presentation? Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for Dinda. Uh, do the two children have a hard to word to say in analysis, but when spoken, will the child try to say the right word? Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Dinda, for the question. I will answer you, Miss Dinda. I will question Miss Dinda. I will answer Miss Dinda's question. From my analysis, both of children are the same age but have different growth. They say the same word, but the word is not quite right, but they try to pronounce the correct word. This all happened because of their encouragement or effort to say the right word. Therefore, Mayura keep repeating one word, one wrong word until it became the right word. While Heikel do not want to keep repeating the word. Maybe just it that I can answer from Miss Dinda's question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Dinda Siregar.
Okay, then I will start my presentation. Dinda, can you please share the screen for my PPT? Okay, I will start my presentation. So my name is Siti Musfatun, and the topic that I will discuss is the problem of the production of phonemes in language acquisition for 2 until 3-year-olds. Next slide, please. The contents of this presentation are research method, research object, results of research, and conclusion. Next slide, please. The first topic is about the research method. So this research analysis of language acquisition for early childhood through the production of this phoneme by using a qualitative approach. This research was conducted with the aim of knowing on how the early childhood can process broken language to communicate. The method used in collecting the data on this observation is by listening the child utterances from voice recordings with their parent companion within pre-duration. The last stage in this research is the phonetic analysis obtained through the words spoken by the child in acquiring his language. This analysis also applies phonology as a linguistic science. Next slide, please. And then for the next part is research objective. This data collection through this study was carried out by direct observation by observing the conversation between 2 children aged 2 years. The research was conducted in Blora City, precisely in Tutup Village, Tunjungan District. The 2 children observed in this study were Dimas Aditya, 2 years old, and Rizal Maulana, 2 years old. Next slide, please. The next part is what result of next. So children aged 2 years have different development, and the way they pronounce different words were obtained with inaccurate pronunciation. Children tend to erase or omit one of the spoken words. In this study, those 2 children had 2 utterances by removing the first word and just producing the last syllables. Dimas does not emit a filler consonant sound S and L, which then simplifies it with another consonant sound. Rizal also replaces the consonant B with P. Next slide. So this is the table for word omniscience were carried out in the prefix syllables. You can read it by yourself on the slide. Next slide, please. And this, the second table is where the research data on the acquisition of substitution phonology. Next. And for the last table, it's for perfectly spoken word research data. This is the table for the word that has been spoke perfectly by the both of the subject. Next, please. And then for the last part is conclusion. In the analysis of the first and second levels, children often shorten words in speaking and replace one letter with another when saying words. GMAS does not emit a velar consonant sound S and L, which then simplifies it with another consonant sound. Rizal also replaced the consonant B with B, which means he has not been able to say the consonant B. From the data above, it can be concluded that 2-years-old have some words in command and producing their first language, although sometimes the production method is a little bit different. Next. That's all my presentation. Is there anything, guys?
Okay, I want to ask to Mbak Siti Musfatun. So the question, because your subject is 2 years old and understandably, they remove one letter to make it easier to pronounce. So the question, this is omitting a word or replacing it due to what factor? Is it the X factor or the factor of the legs of parents would justify that the words mentioned by the child are incorrect? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Galih, for the question. I will try to answer this question. So as you know, in my research, there are 3 children as my subject. Both of them had a difficult time to pronounce several words. The first child does not emit a velar consonant, S and L, which then simplifies it with another consonant sound. And then the second child also replaces this consonant P with P. So both of them are replacing the words that are difficult for them to pronounce and simplifies it with another consonant. This could happen by several factors, such as natural factors, cognitive development factors, social background factor, and hereditary factors like gender, intelligence, personality, or style acquisition. That's what I could say.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Okay guys, let me start my presentation. My name is Dinda Putri Ariyani and this presentation about analysis of syntax in first language acquisition in children 2 until 3 years old Indonesian. And first material methodology. This study is about syntax in first language acquisition of a 2 until almost 3 years old child in non-speaking English but using the local language or her everyday language. In this research, is used descriptive qualitative research that produce descriptive data. Factual about the analysis of syntax in first language acquisition. This description qualitative methods aims to provide an overview of the fact of children language in language acquisition within the context of kids syntax as they are. Data collection in this study was finished by using video, namely by observing the conversation between the child and the child's companion, family, friend. This research was conducted in Perum Randusari Permai. In this study, the author discussed data result and discussed language acquisition by Indonesian syntax based on data already collected. The data source obtained is speech taken from an Indonesian child of 2 and 3 years old. The subject of conversation with parents talking to toys and their sister in the video. The topics of participant from conversation or dialogues and prose activities are there either directed and some are not directed by the author. Research object. The subject used as source in this study were children aged 2 years old and over 4 months and 3 years and 6 months living in the Perum Randusari Permai. They are Rumaisa Sanum, 2 years and 4 months old. Yang kedua, Nabila Mikaira Azahra, 3 years and 6 old. Result. The aspect of language knowledge is also referred to as syntax knowledge. In the syntax, children begin the language by saying one or more words. Language development stages also develop into two-word, multi-word stage develop into various types of sentence, such as question sentence and receiving sentence with a development from yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, boleh. The first form of acceptance for children is to nod the head. In the syntax stage, children begin to speak in one word. In this study, writers also went off the same stage as other children who had acquired the first language. Sanum and Nabila are getting syntax from one word of speech, two word of speech, three word of speech, and multi-word speech. At about age 2, Sanum was able to produce 1, 2, 3 words of speech. Even if the pronunciation is not clear, the 3 years old Nabila like an adult. Uh, uh, table, the table describe the process acquiring syntax of subject. One word utterance, bu or mother. Two word utterance, ayo bu, common man. Three word utterance, Sanum she says, ayo kita main, let's play. Nabila she says, berdoa dulu yuk, let's pray first. Multi word utterance, Sanum and tak umpet tamu daga. Game of hide and seek, uh, your own word. Nabila, sholat di masjid yuk kak, pray at the mosque. A 3 years old is able to produce statements, question, and command in declarative, interrogative, imperative sentence. A 3 years old is able to produce a variety of sentence in declarative, interrogative, and imperative sentence. Data analysis suggests that 3 years old have been able to improvise with sentence they produce. For example, when they use a question sentence in declarative mode to explain something and use a statement in imperative mode to ask or persuade the person he was speaking to. So the sentence have a complete meaning so that the communicator can grasp their meaning well. The thing that make the sentence they produce difficult is their inability to utter word perfectly. Conclusion from analysis is the acquisition of the Indonesian syntax, we can conclude that the difference in the acquisition of the Indonesian syntax for 2 years and 3 years of children in the sentence they produce was in regard to the reduction of their sentence and the degree of punishment they use. When communicating with parents and other adults, they can affirm or request the person they are talking to, even if it is in the form of an incomplete syntactic sentence structure. They engage in speaking, with a combination of their speech and certain gesture and intonation. Children spoke their first word when they were about years old and 2 or 3 years, were, be were able to produce some uh, 950 word, uh, 95% of what and clear years old says. Their 3 years of age can make proper use of preposition. They also understand simple question and can identify colors and calculation, the dominant language when children are about 2 and 3 years old in visual and familiar. Okay, I think that enough for my presentation. Is there any question, guys?
Uh, I wanna ask question. Does a 2-year-old have difficulty responding to declarating imperative and interrogative sentences when interacting or communicating. Thank you.
Okay, I will try to answer this question from Miss Isa. There may be several declarative, imperative, and interrogative sentences that children don't understand at the age of 2 because sometimes what is said will be instantly and the child will sometimes not know what is being said. But there was also a child who at 2 years of age was able to understand declarative, imperative, and interrogative sentence. So when spoken to her often respond with sentences that were at times still unstructured.
Okay, thank you, Miss Dinda. Okay, I will continue the presentation. My name is Choirunnisa Nur Fitria. I'm gonna present about the problem of the production of phoneme in language acquisition for 2 until 3 years old. Okay, the first one is research methods. In this research, I use qualitative approach. This approach aims to provide an overview of the fact of children language and language acquisition in children phonemics. The method used in that data collection from the first stage is voice recording and listening in the form of voice recordings. And the second stage, namely the child's speech, is classified between the target speech and the child's speech. The source of data in this study was obtained from observation of 2 children, aged 2 and 3 years. The research was conducted in Surakarta City in Kampung Batik Kauman. The children observed in the study were Muhammad Sahidikar, 3 years old, and Muhammad Salim Abdullah, 2 years old. Okay, let's start with the first is result. The words that children produce are in the form of opening or omission of sounds as a result of for the first time. For the first child named Sahi, he is quite fluent in pronunciation of words. For the second child named Selim, there are not many words that can be said. The fluency of pronunciation is also still lacking because he is still in the babbling stage. Okay, we move to the first table. Word omission were carried out in the prefix syllable. The data from Sahi is in data number 1 and 2, and Selim in column 3 and 4. The first child named Sahi has to utterance by simplifying the word with the first syllable, producing the last syllable in the word. Adik become de and susu become cucu. The second child named Salim can produce 2 simple syllables by removing the first syllable. In the words minum become num and mau become au. In this observation, Salim tries to say the right word or sentence, but there is still a slack in his tongue. Sometimes this child is also difficult to pronounce consonants. The children simplify the production of words or sounds they make when they speak to the other people. Move to the table 2, substitution phonological acquisition data. In the table 2 is the result of the phonological acquisition of substitution. The previous study aimed at identifying and analyzing pattern of substitution in language in order to investigate aspects of similarities and difference among them. Here, it can be seen that children aged 2 and 3 years have different developments, seen from the way children pronounce the words they already understand. Although it looks so difficult to talk, but they still try to speak well. What these two children have in common is that they are both difficult to pronounce consonants, but their mouths or tongues keep trying to pronounce them. From the result above, it was found that some words were not properly pronounced. Perhaps from the beginning a syllable is omitted or a syllable is added. Not only that, from the data obtained from the two children, they also found words that they managed to understand well. Move to the table 3, perfectly pronounced word. From the table, it can be concluded that these two children have the same ability to pronounce words. The words that can be spoken by these children are also easy words that they often hear in every day. So most likely, this is what makes children memorize the words faster and pronounce the words correctly. Even though a 2-year-old kid is still in the process of babbling, but he can quite pronounce the words properly. From the words, it can be seen that age can affect the acquisition of word in child native language. Launching from raising children at the age of 2 until 3 years, children understand simple directions such as storing toys in boxes, putting glasses on the table, or taking out trash. He also begins be able to change the tone of speech when he is happy and to help to draw language development. Vocabulary and accuracy in pronouncing words at the age of children are increasing, and they rely more on word language than body language or gesture. Despite the rapid development of the language, it is sometimes obvious. This relates to articulation that is still not good due to the oral motor of children 1 until 3 years old not being fully mature. Okay, this is the last is the conclusion. Children aged less than 2 years are more likely to eliminate proportional syllables than children aged 3 years. As it is known, the learning a language cannot be done in a quiet state, but interaction with other people is required. Even though the language used by the children uses less regular language, in the study, the children continue to try to pronounce the words correctly. Most children at the age of 1 until 3 years experience language development that is quite amazing. He not only understands word or simple instruction from their parents, but also begins to string some words to express his wishes. For the first child, Sahi, the child has not yet fully produced good consonant and made alternative consonant, even though the language used by the children was irregular. In the study, the children try to pronounce the words correctly and begin to understand them. And for the second child, the child is quite good at pronouncing syllable, and there are some consonants that are considered quite lacking but can compensate and can be understood. I think that's all from my presentation. Any question, guys?
Excuse me. I want to add something.
Okay.
Is there a word that it's not clear when the child is mentioned? That when the child says it can change its meaning, and does each child have the same one word with difficult pronunciation? Thank you.
Okay, I'll try to answer the question from Miss Dinda. Each child has their own difficulties. For the first child, he's very fluent in speaking, so that the difficulty is not too obvious. While for the second child, the pronunciation is not too clear, and the child is still in the babbling stage. So it's not too much spoken words. He repeat more words that can already be spoken. I think that's all.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Okay, the last presentation will be presented by myself. Please, Mbak Dinda Eka, share your screen to show my PPT. So ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So my analysis, the title is The Analysis of Syntax in Language Acquisition in 3-year-old Children. The next, please. Next slide. And then there are three table of contents. The first one, research methods. And then the second one, the analysis. And the third one, the conclusion. So the first one is the research method. In this analysis, the authors use or myself use a qualitative descriptive approach according to Creswell. GW defines qualitative research as research that is used to examine human and social problems. And then where the researcher will report the result of the research based on the view of the data and analysis of the data obtained in the field. And then in this analysis, myself explain about children language development because every child has the development of different language skills, starting from early age to adulthood, starting from the simple to the most complex. And so, yeah, and then my subject is previous slide, please. Yeah, my subject is Ardi Maulana Yusuf. You can call him Yusuf. Yusuf was born on December 2019. He's age 3 years old. And this analysis or using video recorder from WhatsApp group in the outer subject. And then the next slide, please. So the analysis. There are three research questions that need to be answered in this analysis. The first one, the problem is about the outer subject of the syntactic acquisition process. And the second one, the problem is related to the types of sentences that can be generated by writing the subject at the syntax level. This issue was resolved by classifying the sentences generated by the subject according to the sentence type. They are declarative, imperative, and interrogative sentence. And the last one, the problem is related to the factor that influence the study subject acquisition of the first language. This question was answered using the theory of language acquisition. Next slide, please. Can you zoom the PowerPoint for me? So yeah, table number one describe the process of acquiring the syntax. Like Yusuf, Yusuf is quite smart, and then he's quite good enough for the user for the use the some sentence, and then we can see in the PPT like ayah, he call father ayah, and then bunda, and then alu, and then guest, and then he like Squid Game. He Yusuf call Squid Game like Squid Game in the two word difference, and then three word difference like Dede mau ini, I want this, and then multi word difference lagi foto-foto Squid Game-nya itu. The Squid Game is being take a picture. Next slide please. Can you zoom out? Okay, thank you, Mbak Dinda. And then the process of acquiring the syntax, and then 4 factors that influence the syntax acquisition of children aged 2 years and 3 years old are natural factors, cognitive development factors, social background factors, and heredity, intelligence, and language mastery cell, according to Huta Barat 2080. These 4 factors are interrelated with each other. Yusuf as the subject has a very fast ability when he accepts new vocab, and then he can also produce multiple words because of his desire to talk a lot, even though he often stutters or thinks in advance what word to say. And then Yusuf can also produce multiple words, then he can also produce 1 word iterance, 2 word iterance, and 3 word iterance. Yusuf also help because his social family background. Next slide, please. Yeah, the next slide is about the research subject produce type of sentence. According to Krida Laksana, call these types of sentence a declarative sentence, which refers to the expression of stating or reporting something in written form and is marked with a full stop. Interrogative sentence, which are question. Interrogative sentence are used to express question using question words: who, what, where, when, why, which, and how. And then interrogative sentence, an interrogative sentence is produced by paying attention to intonation and question marks, according to Kerap 1982. Classify interrogative sentence based on their characteristic. And then the last one, imperative sentence, which are orders. An imperative sentence is used to command, order, invite, or ask other people to do something. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is example from Yusuf. Like declarative sentence, there is hitung ada berapa topeng Squid Game yang Ucup, and then Yusuf answer 1, 2, 3, 4 topeng yang Ucup punya bun, and then meaning the auto subject was asked by his mother, and Yusuf try to count how many marks Yusuf had. And then imperative sentence, teteh ayo main sama Ucup, meaning that the subject of the author asks his sister to play with him. And then interrogative sentence, Yusuf, mana topeng Squid Game Ucup bunda? And then bunda menjawab di dalam lemari dede, meaning the subject conversation with his mother asking his favorite marks. The next question, the next slide please, sorry. And then yeah, this is same like the other one yang tadi. So we move to the conclusion, please. The next slide. So the conclusion, the process. There are 3 conclusions. There, And the first one, the process of acquiring syntax on the outer subject is very good compared to other children. The subject of this analysis can produce one-word utterance, two-word utterance, three-word utterance, even multi-word utterance. This subject is fluent in speaking, but something he still stutters because of the limited vocabulary he has. The outer subject is also able to speak adult, like utterances by using sample sentence. The writer, and then the second one, the writer subject was able to produce the declarative sentence, imperative sentence, and interrogative sentence in his utterance by using the sample sentence. And then the last one, in acquiring the subject first language, there are factors that influence the subject to develop quickly and well. Four factors that influence the syntax acquisition of children aged 2 years and 3 years old are natural factors, cognitive development factors, social background factors, and heredity, like intelligence and language mastery style. Because Yusuf is basically smart kid, his social background is also adequate, very influential in creating simple sentence that make him use it indirectly. And because the internet helped Yusuf to develop further than normal children. So yeah, I think that's all for my presentation. Sorry. Do you have any question? Please ask.
I have for so
Yes, please.
children in obtaining first language are quiet fairies. There is a slow one, moderate, and some even faster. So my question is, according to you, what factors that needs to happen? Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Muspa, for the question. So I will answer this question. My opinion, factors that influence Yusuf can 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 produce multiple words or can produce new vocab uh, quickly because his social backgrounds, because his family social backgrounds with a teacher, his mother a teacher. Therefore, if he say the wrong word, his family will immediately justify or correct him. Like misalkan kalau if Yusuf say the wrong word, his family immediately justify or correct him. And maybe this Yusuf is basically is a smart kid. So yeah, and then maybe because Yusuf Yusuf also often finds new vocab and even slang words on the internet and television, such as "hello guys," like, and then "glowing" and "squid game," etc. And then this indicates that what factor he sees, what he hears, and what he pays attention to can affect his acquisition process. So yeah, maybe enough. Do you got my do you know you got what I mean? Sorry, is it enough for the explain of my explanation?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, maybe just that for my explanation. Sorry for the kurangan. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, guys, I think that's all five of our presentation. Thank you for the great attention, and we are sorry if there are any mistakes.
Okay, I think that's all. Galih, ayo Galih.
Yeah, I think that's all for our group presentation. I apologize if we do mistakes, and so yeah, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So see you next time.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you guys.
Udah ya nih, tinggal berapa detik lagi.